Hemostasis describes the interrelated processes that are involved in stopping bleeding. These include several different steps, including vascular spasm, platelet plug formation, and thrombus formation. Before we talk about hemostasis, let's look at the key components that are involved with this. Shown in this picture is a typical blood vessel. We show the endothelium, which is the lining of the blood vessels. We then have just beneath the endothelium what we call subendothelial collagen. So this is a type of tissue called connective tissue that lies immediately beneath the endothelial cells. Here we demonstrate some smooth muscle cells. Also involved in hemostasis are going to be substances called platelets. And platelets originate from what we call megakaryocytes. So this is what a megakaryocyte looks like within the bone marrow. Platelets are fragments of the megakaryocyte cytoplasm that leave the bone marrow and begin circulating in the blood. Here we show a picture of a peripheral blood smear with the majority of these cells representing erythrocytes. These small little flecks here that almost look like dust, I've highlighted them in green. These represent platelets. Also in the blood, we have Von Willebrand factor, which I've circled. Von Willebrand factor is constantly circulating in our blood, and as long as we have intact endothelium, it will circulate freely. And finally, we have fibrin, protein type material that will play an important role in blood clotting. So the first step of hemostasis is vascular spasm. This occurs when we have injury to endothelial cells, and when the endothelium is injured, platelets as well as damaged endothelium release substances that act on nearby smooth muscle cells, resulting in vasoconstriction. This will reduce blood flow to the injured area. Platelets reduce a substance called thromboxane A2, among others, that help promote this vasoconstriction. The damaged endothelium releases a substance called endothelin 1, a very potent vasoconstrictor. So after vasoconstriction, we then have platelet plug formation. So inserted here again, we have our megakaryocyte, and then these little small flecks on our peripheral blood smear represent the platelets. So von Willebrand's factor, which normally is circulating through the plasma, when it encounters subendothelial collagen, it's going to bind to the subendothelial collagen. Once the von Willebrand factor has bound to the subendothelial collagen, platelets will then bind to that von Willebrand factor. When platelets bind to the von Willebrand factor, they become activated, and they release platelet activating factors, including thromboxane A2. These then in turn call in more platelets and continue to stimulate vasoconstriction as well. This is an example of a positive feedback mechanism. Inserted, we show normal platelets, and this is what platelets look when they're activated. So you can see how they become much more sticky appearing and are much more likely to adhere to each other. So when we initially have these platelets aggregating with each other, fibrinogen also will bind to platelets. And this fibrinogen will cross-link the platelets, binding them together. This is part of what we call primary hemostasis. Now, we don't want this platelet plug continuing to propagate throughout the vessel, so nearby intact endothelial cells will release nitric oxide. And nitric oxide will inhibit platelet aggregation, thereby limiting the extent of the platelet plug. The final step in hemostasis is thrombus formation. This involves the activation of a cascade of clotting factors. This is called the clotting cascade. Here, each of the factors that are involved in the clotting cascade are represented by a Roman numeral, and they're classically divided into an intrinsic pathway and an extrinsic pathway. We're going to focus on what happens as a result of both of these pathways, and we're going to focus and jump in at factor 10. So through both the extrinsic or intrinsic pathway, factor 10 will become activated. Factor 10, in addition to some other factors, will then eventually result in the activation of prothrombin into thrombin. And thrombin is the critical key step in this thrombus formation. One thing that thrombin will do was it will actually feed back into this clotting cascade, resulting in additional production of thrombin. And this will produce a burst of thrombin, another example of positive feedback. Now that we have this burst of thrombin, thrombin does several things. Here locally at the site of injury, thrombin is going to have procoagulation effects. It is going to recruit and activate additional platelets. It will catalyze fibrinogen, which is a soluble protein, into fibrin, and these proteinaceous fibers will then loosely aggregate with each other. This will play an important role in beginning to lock this platelet plug in place. But to complete that process, thrombin will also convert factor 13 to 13A, and factor 13A converts the loose fibrin into stabilized fibrin. So that's the final step that locks the platelet plug in place, and that's our final thrombus formation. So this is all occurring at the site of injury. This inset picture demonstrates fibrin, platelets, and red blood cells as a demonstration of the final thrombus formation. I've highlighted in blue what's referred to as the common pathway. So thrombin has a central role at the site of injury promoting hemostasis. So thrombin is in high levels at the site of injury, and these combined actions to activate platelets, stabilize fibrin, result in stabilization of the clot at the site of injury. Thrombin has different effects, however, as we move further away from the site of injury and the concentration of thrombin has decreased. Away from the site of injury, thrombin binds to a substance on the endothelium called thrombomodulin. By binding to thrombomodulin, it then activates a substance called protein C. Thrombin also will be activating tissue plasminogen activator, or TPA. Both of these substances, which are being now released by nearby healthy endothelium, are going to have anticoagulant type effects. TPA catalyzes a substance called plasminogen into plasmin, and plasmin then promotes fibrinolysis, or the breakdown of the thrombus that was formed. Protein C acts at several different steps and essentially reduces the formation of thrombin. So by these actions, we are limiting the thrombus formation to the site of injury, as well as beginning the breakdown of the clot, with the hope that by the time it breaks down, the injured endothelium will have been repaired. So as the injury is repaired, thrombin's role shifts from a procoagulant, meaning that we're building the fibrin mesh and we're locking that platelet plug into place, to a profibrinolytic coordinator. And it does so by activating protein C as well as TPA.